Hello Naps, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jocelyn. Today we are going to be talking about harm-based morality versus social conventional morality. So I thought that was pretty cool. Let's get into it while doing some fun glam makeup today. All right. First off, I want to say hi JT out there, giving you a shout out. Second of all, let's get our primer on. Mixing things up today, you know how it goes. I'm using the Mary Kay foundation primer that has like a little bit of SPF 15 in there. Just use a little bit. Next will be my Tarte Double Duty Face Tape Foundation in Light Sand on a beauty blender. And let's start talking about this. So I read an article recently, it was in Arrow magazine, and I hadn't really heard of Arrow before, so I looked it up. I did a media bias fact check. They're a magazine that has like pretty decent factual reporting, like higher, but they do tend to use loaded language as a bias. Usually they lean left, but in certain areas they lean right. So just to give you a heads up, that's what inspired this particular topic today. The article that I saw online was called Woke Harm-Based Morality. That is the name that the author created for the type of morality that the author was seeing start to be popularized, at least on social media, but I think in today's day and age and culture in general. Just so you know, I think this publication is UK based, a little different than like the American viewpoint on it. I'm going to go in with the Paul & Joe setting powder. Recently I've been seeing people use their beauty blenders for their setting powder. I don't know if that actually like works though, because there's so much moisture. Yeah, this doesn't feel like it's actually doing anything. So I'm gonna swap back to my like little poof. Give me a second to powder this up. All scented and stuff. It's just so lovely. I'm gonna take my Nars Leguna contour, for contour, just like brush it in there. By the way, all links both to the articles or things that I mentioned and also names of makeup and typically where I used it are going to be linked down below. So if you want to go check that out in the description, you are more than welcome to pop down there. You have the power. When I was looking at this, I was like, whew, this article is very, very opinionated. And it's definitely more of an opinion piece than other things, though it does base some of its findings in research, but ultimately it is to prove an opinion, you know? So we're gonna do, I guess, similar things here today. My Jouer palette, Rose Gold Blush Duo in, let's do Marigold. The first thing that I looked up for this was I looked up the harm principle because I really wanted to make sure that I had my definition of harm right for this article from Wikipedia. I got that the actions of individuals should only be limited to prevent harm to other individuals. That is the harm principle. If you do harm, that's where your limits should be. Everyone should be able to do everything else as long as it's not causing harm to others, basically. In my opinion, it seems like a pretty decent principle. So that's the basis where we're starting there. So when we get into morality, the morality section of it, that would be our like rule structure for how we go about living, making sure that we are guided by like a code of how we work, like an ethics code, more or less, morality, ethics. So when we're looking at harm-based morality, we're looking at our code of ethics being related to, do we cause harm to others? Trying to scale that back. When we look at social conventional morality, we see that that is actually not the same thing at all. It's based off of rules. So our moral code comes from not breaking the rules. So you don't jaywalk. If you jaywalk, it's against the rules. That's a simple one that would be part of it. So you don't want to break the rules because your moral code is based around not breaking rules. Now, in the UK, also in the US, it's a blend of both of those. Both the social conventional morality and the harm-based morality make up the larger system. I need to get my highlighter. Taking my Aurora Lights BH Cosmetics palette, and I'm going to use shade Kaleidoscope, which is a nice pink just for my highlight. So when we talk about harm-based morality, we're talking about a form of consequentialism, meaning we base what we do off of the potential consequences that those things have, which makes sense. I mean, you're in theory able to do whatever you want. but you're not free from the consequences of what may happen should you choose to do something. You know, I hope that makes sense. I really do. Let me know if it doesn't. And just to make sure that we are on the same page when it comes to harm, I looked up the definition of harm. Merriam-Webster Dictionary had multiple definitions. I think the one that fits best here is physical or mental damage or injury, mischief or hurt. Now, that's a really wide range of a definition because it spans all the way from the physical effects, the potential emotional, mental effects that someone could cause someone, right? For eyebrows, I'm going to be using my Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow products, both the pomade and the mascara. First, I'm just trying to get my brows into place before using the pomade. So throughout this article, even though the ideas of harm-based morality and social conventions morality are both already created, this author is talking about how there has been a third dynamic that has kind of been introduced to our society under the name the woke harm-based morality. So we have the harm-based morality, like our usual stuff, but where the aspect of woke comes in is based off of the idea that how we choose to utilize this is selective. So traditional harm-based morality affects everyone the same way. If you cause harm to other people, then that is like breaking the harm-based morality code, right? It doesn't matter who you are or what you are. If you cause harm, you cause harm. The author argues, and this is where I'm sure some people will disagree, and that's okay if you disagree. I'm bringing it up because I thought it was an interesting article and I wanted to talk about the opinions. But the author was going to argue, or was arguing, in today's day and age, we are being selective about who or what this applies to. This is the hardest part to explain. Put down my eyebrow stuff, talk to you really quick about it. So the author is arguing basically that the difference between harm-based morality and woke harm-based morality is that in harm-based morality, everyone is equally held responsible. But in woke harm-based morality, those who are considered in an oppressed group or a protected group, as some call it, or marginalized group, those individuals are somehow less held accountable than individuals who would be considered in a position of power, or the oppressors, or the majority population. I'm trying to use multiple words to get to the same point there because there's so many different words that are used to describe different populations. And if I get too specific, then I leave groups out. So it is supposed to be generalized, is what I'm saying. Sorry about that, it's confusing. Let me finish my eyebrows. Okay, eyebrows finished. Gonna pop on some Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow primer. Get that on my eye using my finger because that's how I do here on this channel. Welcome if you have not been here before. So I think this topic of conversation comes up specifically because, I hope I'm getting this right. I believe the EU, the UK, Europe in general has passed some laws. I think Canada's also passed some of these laws as well. They're like anti-hate speech laws. It's more than just a user agreement that you sign when you log onto a website. It's actually like government law that hate speech of protected groups is banned. The problem is with language, and this is something that like I talk to people about a lot. Language is so fluid and so changing. It always changes, right? Like lit was not a thing a couple of years ago, and now lit is a popular word, but not to describe lighting a fire or lighting a lamp, but to describe something as being cool, or as a really old term, groovy. So we have the evolution of words, which changes not necessarily sentiment behind it, but how the actual like language. So nailing down specific language in a law would be very difficult to manage because as language changes, the laws would no longer be effective at preventing what they were before. Twitch came out and was trying to do anti-hate speech rules as well on their platform, and they were trying to ban specific words. And a lot of people were coming out and saying, well, I'll just use this word instead, which is an effective workaround if there are specific words that are specifically banned. Really quick, I'm gonna dip into Jeffree Star Beauty Killer palette into shade Vanity because It's a really nice dark shade. I'm going to be trying to do like, I'm gonna call it like a shadow crease instead of a cut crease, but it's not gonna be like a traditional one. It's gonna be like a winged shadow crease, hopefully. So I'm gonna take Vanity and I'm going to get it along my lash line. Probably should use, I'm gonna use a smaller brush, itty bitty brush. So recently there have been a lot of anti-hate speech laws, which has really good intentions. You know, you wanna make sure that protected groups aren't victims to hate and vitriol and anger and stuff like that. And language has not been limited in that way, I think partially because it's really difficult to do that with language without going down a slippery slope, which I'm gonna get into now. So with language, because it changes so much, it is very difficult to pinpoint ways to effectively stop people from bullying people verbally, because they'll just find different words and use the same sentiment to describe stuff, but using different language. So a lot of governments have been trying to issue anti-hate speech laws, and they're leaving it very open-ended because language changes, it makes sense. But also the problem with that is when something is too open-ended, you can start making pretty much anything feel anti if you want it to. You can manipulate the way that words are online so they sound different in your head. If somebody says, I like your dress, you might read that sarcastically, I like your dress, ew. You know what I mean? Sometimes text doesn't always translate intent well, so this is particularly worrisome on the internet. Like I was talking about before, we use a blend of the harm-based morality and a blend of the social conventional morality to navigate laws and try and make things equitable. Now, we know for a fact that it does not make things equitable because there are still people in charge of enforcing those rules. So regardless, we have a lopsided system as is, right? And we're still trying to figure out the effects of some of the rules that have been in the population for a while that disproportionately affect groups. That being said, I think that the author is trying to push for us to not add more disproportionate social morality codes to society than we already have. And that's me obviously putting words in the author's mouth, because you can read the article yourself and you can be angry about it, you can be happy about it, whatever you choose to be. This is just what I see from the article. So something that we should talk about with this, is it problematic to have a one-sided system? My thought on it is yeah. If we're all social conventional morality, then rules that were put in place that disproportionately affect a population are just continued on because it's a rule and we don't change the rules. If you've ever been in a classroom that has a stupid bathroom policy and you really gotta go, you understand that rules are not always good. They're not always meant to help. The bathroom rules in classrooms typically are meant to make sure that, you know, the teacher's class isn't abandoned and kids aren't just running around the school building willy-nilly. But if more than two people actually genuinely have to go to the bathroom at the same time, it can be not a good situation. I want to blend this eye look out on the edges, but I don't want to use this palette. I'm going to use the Jacob and Ellie or Jacob and Eli Hidden Gems palette, and I'm going to use shade Garnet, which is a deep red, to just try and gently blend it out. It's going to bring out the purple and that first color too, I'm hoping. Part of this is it's like a cut crease, but the inside is almost left blank as opposed to having other colors inside of it, if I remember correctly. Because again, couldn't find example photos, even though I've seen this look before. A short, dense brush, there we go, that I can use to buff. And if you're like, oh, but what's the downside of the harm-based morality code? I think it's that we just get into the risk of intent. With harm-based morality, one side of it can be, did you cause harm? The other side can be like, did you have intent to cause harm? And typically it's the intent that drives that. If you didn't intend to hurt somebody, then like it is more forgivable and it's more of a sliding scale. Trigger warning for hypothetical situations about death. If you live in America and you have decided to kill somebody, then it would be premeditated. And premeditated murder is considered worse than like if you accidentally kill somebody. And that's kind of where we have our degrees of badness. The end result is still the same. The harm caused to the other person was still the same, but the intent does also make a difference. I'm going in with vanity because I blended a little too much in some spots, and I just want to make sure that I have that hard line there. Let me get out my eye primer again. So if we went the harm-based morality completely, we run the risk of people who accidentally broke that code with high repercussions. And if we do the intent-based, it can be really difficult to prove that all the way through for everyone. I hope that makes sense. So in that Arrow article, they argue that we're going to be seeing a very lopsided approach in how woke harm-based morality handles people, which I think is an interesting argument to make there. And I'm curious what you all think of this. I would encourage you to also read the article to get like a full takeaway, since I am biased myself in my own opinions, and I want to make sure that you understand that going into this. Okay, now I just want a light shade to kind of set this in there. I think I'm going to use China White from the Beauty Killer palette. Oh, this brush it's not a great brush, but we're going to use it anyway. China White seems somewhat close to my skin tone. The goal is a light 60s meets the 2020s vibe, which is, I think, appropriate. And let's add, I'm gonna take my finger and I'm gonna use Shade Princess in the, ooh, okay, I used too much of Shade Princess. I forgot how pigmented these are. There we go. Let's go ahead and wing it and such. So I'm curious what you all think of this, what you all think of the rules that are being put out there for anti-hate speech. Is it possible to actually regulate this? Is it possible to nail down and actually find ways to make it specific enough to be enforceable without bias? Because in my opinion, I don't think it is, but I'm curious if you have a way that you think that could actually happen. Please drop it down below. Prove my thought wrong. I'm okay with that. I'm also going to be using the One Size Point Made Bodacious Black eyeliner for a quick wing. I'll be using the Clinique High Impact Mascara for my eyes, as well as Lunar Angel lashes in Supernova with some Ben Nye prosthetic adhesive. And if you're new here, just to let you know, I have a discount with Lunar Angel lashes, the lashes that I will be using for this look. So if you want 15% off and you enjoy the lashes, you can use code NAPS, that's NAPS, at checkout, or follow the link in the description of this video and it'll get automatically applied to your cart so that you can save a little bit on some pretty lashes. I use their faux mink lashes. I prefer no harm to animals, and so the faux does not use animal materials. Yeah. So I've got those on. I also added a little bit of the shadow back underneath my eyes to balance it a little bit more. And I'm going to be using NYX Liquid Suede Cream Lipstick in, what shade are you? Club Hopper. A little bit of a muddy application, but that's what I get for using a brown lip color. So yeah, I'm curious what you all think about this. I think that reforming things to make them more equitable and better for everyone is really important. I think that it is very difficult to police language, and in the United States, you know, there's a lot of people who are very freedom of speech, so policing language would not be a great idea. But it's happening in the rest of the world, and I am curious to know your thoughts on it. Is it something that you think can be done fairly? Is it something that you think there's no chance of being done fairly? Where do you stand on the harm-based morality versus social conventional morality? Are you a fan of either? Are you a fan of a mix, a blend of them? The only way we're gonna do that is talk about it. So drop down in the comments, let me know. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button and ding the notification bell to get alerted when I will post next. I hopefully will see you here next Thursday on my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today, Naps. And always remember, I am not a professional. I do my research, but that does not make me a professional. So have fun, stay aware, and do research. Yeah, have a nice day. Bye.